I got my sheriff's sale notice. I told him under no circumstances is he to bring the Occupy people to my home because at that time I was still feeling pretty shameful about being in foreclosure. You just feel like that you should have been able to make the payments.
When I was growing up and not having a lot of money, there was some shame about just having, you know, secondhand clothes and crappy sneakers and that kind of stuff, and was made to feel that sort of from people around me, especially when I went to college and realized some of those kids were driving nicer cars than our family will ever own.
I'm an RN at North Memorial and I have a decent income. That's kind of how I ended up falling behind a bit because I had kids in college, expenses like that.
Growing up with my mom as a single parent, she struggled a lot and really did everything she could to give me and my siblings a better life than she had, to put us through a good school, to get us into college. And we were always, you know, a month or two away from foreclosure, and to finally cross that threshold was a surprise, but it was, you know, I had some sense of what people were going through with the uncertainty and the fear.
I purchased the home in 1997, and I've been here 16 years. Ended up refinancing in 2003 for $85,000. I now owe $50,000, and it's a 15-year mortgage. So I have 6 years left to pay on the mortgage. There's a sheriff's sale on June 13th, and right now I owe $50,000 on the house. I reluctantly went to some meetings, some homeowner meetings, and discovered that there are people all over that have similar problems, that have a difficult time renegotiating. Seeing these homeowners going through the same thing, that's when my mentality shifted, where it was more, maybe the bank should be ashamed rather than the people that they're taking advantage of. I've met people at work that when I started talking about it, I discovered there were more and more people in my situation.
But as she started to go to the homeowner meetings and to meet people like Bobby and Monique who are standing up and hearing the stories of just the crazy things that the banks have put other families through, started to help her. And I think all the homeowners in those meetings realized that what these banks are doing is shameful, and it's not fair, and it's not an individual problem. It's clearly a systemic problem when there's 11 million homeowners in foreclosure in this country and over $8 billion in negative equity in the housing market. It's becoming clear to, I think, a lot of people that this isn't an issue about personal responsibility. It's a systemic problem that allows banks to make record profits every quarter after we bailed them out, and they're continuing to be completely unwilling to work with families like ours who can afford to pay a mortgage.
This work is extremely important for not just me, but for all the other homeowners across the country that are being forced out of their homes. They're not helping our communities by forcing people out of their homes, and that people should be able to negotiate their homes that they've lived in and raise their family in. And I think the whole idea of uniting and showing the banks that we're not backing down and feeling the support of other people has really changed my whole attitude about whether I'll stay in this home or not.
I've organized a lot of protests, but organizing something for your own family is certainly a new experience, and it can be a little strange at first, but it's been incredibly rewarding to see the transformation in my mom and to see her go from feeling hopeless and isolated to feeling a lot of community support and feeling like we're going to win this house.
He's always been a rebel.
Yeah?
Yeah.
My grandma, when I first started telling her about the Occupy Homes work, she's like, "Oh, that's nothing new." You know, I was around during the Great Depression, and back then they had these penny sales. So when the bank would come to try to take people's farms away, the farmers would get together and go to the auction, and they would bid a penny or 2, 3, 4 cents on the property, and nobody would bid higher than that. And after they won the bid for a few pennies, they would just give the land back to the farmer. And the response we see from communities is nothing new, but it's a historical response to banks' greed and to their attacks on our communities, and people today, just like in the Great Depression, are standing up. If the banks were to reduce the principal of the house to the actual market value and give the current market interest rate of 4%, that every one of our homeowners would be able to keep their houses. And our sense is that millions and millions of other families around the country would also be able to keep their houses.